everyone, it's me Madison. So today I am going to be doing a birthday haul. Now before I get started, I didn't do one last year because there was so much going on in regards to choose my GCSE options and all that. But also as well, what I'd like to say is I am grateful for everything I got, and I'm so glad that my family were able to get me presents that they know I'm gonna like and they know me so well. So let's just get on with it. Now the first thing I got is what I'm wearing, and it's this turtleneck. I absolutely love it. My outfit is so dark academia in regards to this necklace and like this very dark academia scat. And I've got thermals underneath because I'm freezing. But the next thing I got are two dresses. I did get some clothes. Now the first dress is this red with these blue and white flowers on, and it's got a slit on the side, which I never really realised. But I love it. It's so stunning, and I can't wait to wear it in the summer months because at the minute it's a bit too cold, or maybe around Easter time. But around Easter time I really want to wear this yellow dress, which is absolutely lovely. You'll probably see me in it at some point, like if I do a video in the future with this dress on. But they're absolutely pretty and they are so fitting. I also love this. This is just my number one. The next two things are books. Well, I got mainly a lot of books. Now, the first book I got is The Hound of the Baskervilles and the Valley of Fear by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And I also got the case book of Sherlock Holmes and his last battle. Now, if you don't know, at the beginning of the year I read Sherlock Holmes, but it was his 12 earliest cases, and I loved it. My favourite one was The Scandal in Bohemia. It was just really nice to read, and to especially see, we get that first insight into Sherlock Holmes, we get an introduction to Sherlock and Watson, but these are just so pretty. These are by the Wordsworth Collector's Editions. Now I've got a few of these. A few of them I bought for myself, and I got one for Christmas in 2022, which I showed you, which was The Secret Garden, which I got from my dad, and he knows I love classics, but my mum got me these because she knows I love classics as well. I love classic literature. If there's one thing I would read for the rest of my life, they would be classics, because like you really get an insight into what life was like for them, like for people back then, like whenever the book was written. So for Charles Dickens, he really gives a good insight into poverty within London, and his books are influenced by London, which is where he lived and grew up. I do love Charles Dickens. He's my favourite classics author, but I do like Jane Austen as well, which we'll get onto her later. Now the next present I bought for myself, and it is Emily Dickinson's letters. It's really nice to read an author's letters before you understand like what their book's about or their poems. For Emily Dickinson, I read this before I read her poems, and it was so much more easier to do so. So if you read like an author or poet's letters, it really just gives you a good insight into their lives before understanding kind of their books and their poems and all that. Emily Dickinson, I believe, wrote over 1,000 poems in her lifetime, which is quite a lot. A lot of them are published. I think there are some out there that are not published, but which is quite unfortunate, but hopefully one day, if that is the case, then they could be published. The next two books I did get from my dad, and I love these. I love what my dad gets me every year. It's very funny, but it's very funny and it's very fun and it's very me. The funny thing about these presents is I told my dad that I didn't like poetry at school. I absolutely hate doing poetry at school, but just in my spare time I do read them at home. I've got a few poetry anthologies and a few poetry books. So yeah, and my dad was like, well, I want to prepare you for your unseen poetry exams by getting you some anthologies. I'm like, oh god. So the first one are some French poetries. French poetry from medieval to modern times. I love French poetry. I've read one or two in the past, and French poetry is so much different to English poetry, as in the sense that it's more romantic and it's more in the sense of love, and it's more beautiful, and it really shows who they are and who, and just kind of what it gives a good insight to what France is like, I suppose. But I do love French poetry. And then I got some Christmas poetry. These are by the Everyman's Pocket Poets, and I love these. So these are split into Christmas Eve, and into within different items like the Christmas cracker and all sorts. And I do love these. I will recommend you getting the Everyman's Pocket Poets if you're really interested. They have the classics as well, the Everyman Pocket Classics. Next, I got the painted edition of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Braun, and I've always wanted to read this since I could remember. I found out that The Wizard of Oz, the film, was based off the book The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and I didn't know that there was a book until I was 11, and I wanted to read it, and my parents were like, no. But I did finally get one, and I got this beautiful one, because, yeah. Ow! I dropped a book on mine. And when you drop a book on your toe, it hurts. The next poetry anthology are the 4 seasons. These are split within the seasons, so there are some for the summer, spring, winter and autumn. And the idea behind this is you read the poems within that season. So within winter you'll read the winter poems, and the summer you'll read the summer poems, stuff like that. And that's the whole idea behind it. Yeah. Next, I got the funniest present, and it's on the floor because I've been flicking it about a little bit. I got a flicker chicken. I honestly love this. It's got a cute face. I named it Chicken Little because I loved Chicken Little when I was younger. I also liked the Stuart Little film, which, oh my god, it's probably one of my favourite films out there, except for Harry Potter and maybe Schindler's List. I do like Schindler's List. I've watched it since I was 12. And I absolutely love it. The next thing I got are some Parma Violets, 24 packs. My mum knew that I needed them. I haven't eaten them yet, but she knows that I haven't eaten them yet, but I love Parma Violets, and she knows that, like, I don't want to keep on buying them, like, often, you know. So if I have a 24 pack, that will probably last me for the rest of the year, hopefully. If not, it'll probably last me 6 months. But I will share these with my dad and all that if he likes them. My mum absolutely hates them, and I am really offended. So, Mum, if you're watching this, I'm so offended. Next, I got American Notes by Charles Dickens. I haven't read this before, but I did get this for myself as well. I found it. It's just so beautiful. I can't remember where I found it, but it's a really nice old book, and I have a big thing for old books, especially like if they're to do with like well-known books like the classics. I've got a few on my shelf, like Dombey and Son and David Copperfield, which is one of my favourite books out there. But American Notes I can just read for pleasure. I read it for pleasure. Next, I got the personal library kit. Now this is exactly, so the idea behind this is you have these, which are like, so in the library you have these things that you stick within the book, and it's like the return date, and they stamp it and all that, and then this is like checkout cards, and then you've got the little stamp, the pencil, and the ink. And when I'm older, when I get my own house and all that, I really want a library. If I get my forever home, I really want a library within my house. And yeah, because I love reading so much, and it's just kind of a place for me to, you know, feel chill and safe, you know, because I feel like I feel safe when I read a book, because it takes me to this completely different world. Like within different books, you're taken on so many different adventures, and it's so nice. Like with Charles Dickens, I feel like I'm in like the 18th, like within the 19th century, like 1800s to 1900s, and I feel just safe within. And the last present I got is the complete works of Jane Austen, by Jane Austen. And it's not her complete works, but it's her complete novels. So I got Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Manfield Park, Emma, Northanger Abbey, and Persuasion. And look at how shiny that is. But I do love Jane Austen, and this will have a pride of place on my shelf. I have 3 bookshelves in my room. I mean, they're quite small. One shelf is dedicated to the classics, so I don't know where I'm going to put this, but I'm looking forward to reading it all in one sitting. This is probably going to take me a month or 2 to get through, because it usually takes me like 1 to 2 weeks to get through a book, depending on just kind of how I feel. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you in my next video. Yeah.